Hey everyone, I'm bringing you more dark web stories because I know how much you enjoy them. Anyways, with that said, whether you're sitting around a campfire, on the night shift, or even laying in bed, let my voice soothe your nightmares. If you've opened this, it's already too late. First of all, please don't blame me. It said it'd go easier on me if I can find more hosts. And trust me, you'll soon understand why even some leniency means everything. It all started when I found myself on the dark web. My older sister showed me how to get on it, and I was pretty addicted straight away. I came across your usual shocking stuff, including gore and paraphernalia, but I didn't take too many risks on the engine, until one day a link popped up. Do not open. I was definitely wary of clicking it, but I hadn't run into any issues so far, and my curiosity got the best of me. Looking back now, I felt so dumb. The link almost absorbed my screen and revealed the black page. It was a type of black I've never seen before. So black, it almost seemed infinite. I can't explain it. But it's not your usual black. It was darker. Almost incomprehensible. As quickly as the link opened, it was gone. I was just confused, but I shook it off. About 6 months passed by, and I completely forgot about this link. Until it showed up again. I was sitting at home watching some YouTube video when my doorbell rang. It was about 3 a.m. So, instead of going to get the door, I just ignored it. I thought it was probably some drunk university student who got lost trying to find their way home. Then it rang again. But it was somehow louder. I didn't realize that my doorbell could ring louder. This time, I looked out my blinds, but I couldn't see anything. Literally, anything. It was just black. Infinite black. That's when I remembered the link. I hadn't seen anything that dark since the link. But why? Why was it so dark that night? And that's when the doorbell rang so loud that it sounded like it was inside my head. I tried to ignore it, but it was incessant that I ran to the door and ripped it open. Big mistake. The black surrounded me. I felt substantially more ill, anxious, and depressed than I ever have experienced in my entire life. And I am diagnosed with some severe stuff. I threw up and started to weep instantly. It was as if every awful thing that has happened to me, or will happen, was inside me. The memories and emotions of all the awful things in the world, eating at my insides like a parasite. I screamed and sprinted to my neighbor's house. The weight of all the misery inside me caused me to move slower than a turtle. When I finally reached his house and I smashed my heavy, hate-filled hands on his door, my neighbor Bill answered it. "Peter, it's like 3:30 a.m. What do you want?" I was baffled. Although my lungs were bleeding and pus-filled from screaming uncontrollably, and I was covered in vomit. He just seemed sleepy and a tad bit confused I was there so late. I was mouthing for help, but he seemed clueless as to what was wrong. That's when I heard it. Its sickening voice, like 1,000 needles piercing my eardrums.
He can't see what you see, Peter. To him, you are your normal self. No one will ever see this terror that is now your life. You will never be able to ask for help.
Okay then, I'm going back to bed. Have a good night, you drunk. Bill said as he shut the door in my face. I've now been its sole host for 3 long months, which feels like an eternity in the black. It calls itself a smotherer and feeds all of the evil in the world to me. It told me it laced itself in the link I clicked, and that's how it transferred to our world. I let it in. It has been trying to get me to help it get new hosts from the beginning, but I never gave in until now. Enjoy your free life while it lasts. It stalks its prey and only reveals itself when memory has faded, but it will come. Please forgive me. I just want to feel anguish of a little less intensity for once. I've laced it in this post. I already feel a tiny bit lighter, as if light exists in this black, infinite black hole. When I was 12, I got into hacking and I loved it, and I had gotten quite good at it, but my arrogance caused my unbecoming. You see, I was browsing some forum, and I came across something labeled the dark web. I was overcome with curiosity, so I clicked on it. The post covered everything from what it is and how to access it. I, arrogant enough to think I won't get caught, proceeded to download Tor browser with no extra precautions and started browsing. All of a sudden, my laptop crashed and it froze. I got hundreds of pop-ups warning me of a virus. Then, it shut off. I stared in awe as it turned back on with a green light turned on where my camera is. Someone was watching me. I got an anonymous message on Skype that read,
You just made the biggest mistake of your life.
"Who are you?" I responded while panicking and covering my camera with my thumb.
"Your new friend."
And then, the chat just suddenly disappeared. I formatted my laptop and made sure there was no remaining malware or viruses, and had a quiet couple of days after that, and was pretty relieved. I thought I had defeated him. But sadly, I would come to know that wasn't the case. A week later, I was getting dressed in my room and was completely naked when I got a text on my phone that had no caller ID, and it said,
Come closer.
"Who's this?" The text didn't faze me yet. I thought it was a wrong number or one of my friends pranking me.
"Come closer."
I was sure it was my friend messing with me at this point. Which camera? Okay, which one of you is this? I was confused, but I had told my friends about the incident a couple days ago, so other than the anxiety growing within me, I was consciously trying to convince myself that this was a prank.
"Laptop."
I walked to my laptop still naked, and the light by my camera wasn't on. I know you're either Joe or you're Zach. I put down my phone and got dressed. My phone started vibrating uncontrollably, and I had received 16 pictures. All of me. All naked. I screamed and threw my phone, ultimately breaking my screen. I went off the grid completely after that. No social media, no internet for a solid year. It was mortifying, especially for a 12-year-old girl. When I got back on, I had no issues and no warning signs. I was quite relieved until almost 4 years later, 16 at the time. I had gotten a new laptop and was at my boyfriend's house. We were studying together when it turned into a makeout session. I heard my laptop ding multiple times and had gotten annoyed and turned around to see what it was. I guess I must have looked like I had seen a ghost because my boyfriend started panicking and shaking me. It was him. He's back. Or maybe he's never left. I started rewinding memories of all the times I've been undressing with my laptop on every time I've shared something private during a Skype call. And I started having a panic attack. His message read, "Don't forget to use protection." As if I couldn't smell the irony in that. He then continued to harass me for the next 2 years, but it's been quiet for a year now. Until about 4 hours ago, I got a text that read,
Let me in.
and then I heard a knock at my door. My door was locked and deadbolted, so there's no way I'm leaving my apartment. It's safe in here. I called the police 3 hours ago and no one has shown up. I called again 30 minutes ago and still nothing. I called my boyfriend hours ago as well. He said he's on his way, but he's not answering his phone. I'm an 18-year-old man, and I find myself fascinated with the dark web stories and facts. It's really scary and mysterious to think that there are creepy things lying down there. Like these hitmen, real killers, and murderers talking to each other. And peds live streaming illegal videos. But what if there is something scarier than these? I wasn't the only one who thought the dark web is actually an interesting thing. My friend, Darius, also loves the dark web. In fact, he even enters it almost every day and enjoys it somehow. Even though I'm reading facts and creepy stories about the dark web and find them interesting, I've never entered it because I always find these stories that tell if you want to enter the dark web, be very careful because. And it continues with people being killed because they entered but one wrong site, and these always get me. Darius didn't seem to care though, and I'll tell you now the full story of what happened to him. A week ago, I left outside biking with him, and he always told me the stories about these Red Room websites. I never really believed this, because it's really screwed up for someone to live stream someone else being slaughtered, tortured, and other things done to them. Darius never believed me that I said it's fake, and he always wanted to see if these Red Room websites were actually true or not. So he made a bet with me that if he finds a Red Room website, I would give him $100. I accepted because I will not give him $100 anyways, because these websites don't exist. They are but a myth. After we biked around our small village, he invited me to his house to search the Red Room websites. We stood at his computer on Tor browser for 5 hours straight, and we found nothing related to Red Rooms. He almost gave up, but he didn't, and I said, I will find it, you'll see. I was really bored, because the dark web not only includes creepy sites, but also boring information that makes no sense at all. So I went back home, made my homework, and finally slept. Of course, Darius was still on his computer, searching for red rooms, and I'm sure he won't find one. But he did. Next day was a weekday, and I went to school. I realized Darius wasn't here, and it got me worried, since he never was absent from school, only when he gets sick, but he always tells me when he's sick or not. When I got home, I still thought of why Darius wasn't at school, so I made my homework really quick, grabbed my bike, and went to his house. Once I got there, I rang the doorbell, and his younger 12-year-old sister answered. I asked, "Where's Darius? He was absent from school." She said, "Wait, he wasn't in there? Last time I saw him was this morning, where he wanted to buy some sandwiches before going to school. And since you said Darius was absent," I said, "let me inside. I want to search his room real quick. I think I know what got him missing." Darius' sister let me inside the room, and what I found was shocking. His computer, still open just like yesterday when I was searching for red rooms, had multiple programs on his desktop, each with the same name, scheduling, and after opening it, it will have led you to a website on Tor, which includes but a black screen and a red message that reads, "Congratulations, Darius. You are scheduled for today on our website, RED, at 9 a.m. See you soon." Below the message was a countdown which, when I arrived, only had 5 minutes and 29 seconds left. I waited all those minutes, not only for curiosity, but I was really worried about Darius's disappearance. The countdown ended, and it led to a website, similar to Twitch, which had a live stream. It showed that it had 12,000 viewers in it, and on chat, all I saw things like, "I'm so excited, let the fun begin," and "I've waited so long for this." The live stream then began with a presentation, and a woman saying, "Hello, and welcome to our brand new RED live stream. Today, our guest is a 17-year-old boy with the name of Darius. There have always been misconceptions about nerds, that much is known. Films like The Matrix and war games always earn a subtle eye roll from people who are more entrenched in tech culture than your average Hollywood writer. They just don't know, and they never will. It's not their fault, of course. It's complicated business, and it looks boring on the screen. I get it. The stories are cool though. I've always liked creepypastas about the dark web, or whatever these other people choose to call it to that day. The reality is far from what gets written, however, and if you're in it, you can always spot an ambitious writer who's out of their depth. They use terms like ghost IPs and shadow servers and backdoors, and other weirdly underhanded, almost sinister terms to sell their world. Here's a pro tip. When a writer treats the digital world like a physical place that you can move around in, I was followed to this site, etc. It's a dead giveaway. Look, let me stop rambling and get right to the point. I'm a few drinks down at this point, and it's been over 3 years since this has happened. But I don't think I can keep going like this, not talking about the things I saw. There's one story in particular that I think needs to be shared, so that hopefully whoever responsible can one day own up to what they did. I can't go public on my own. I've been a nerd for my entire life, but without boring you with a lot of backstory, let me just say this. It was March 2015, and I was home alone. It was a Friday, and I had no plans. I was in my final year of college, studying IT, with a major in network penetration, and the stack was one of the core topics. Any layman will tell you that they know that the internet is much more than what we can get to via a search bar. But it takes someone in the know to tell you that it's not as simple as visible and hidden. It was that night that I booted up Tor in a Backtrack Linux VM to do some exploring. At first, it was business as usual. Slow websites that looked like they belonged in 1996. Various markets, hackers for hire, and video live cams. Here's the next little tidbit I'll impart. If you want to go beyond the homepage of an onion, you better come correct. I had a USB drive filled with scripts and small programs for navigating the internet while keeping safe. There's software you can get to simulate network environments so you can practice. Packet Tracer is a good starter if you're interested. Anyway, that's when I encountered something that's not too uncommon when you're snooping around these places. I got a pop-up with a chat message. Another pro tip: you never ever reply to a message like this. Like, say you're on a video site and you see those fake "Hi, wanna meet" ads. You don't just click it. I let it be, but it kinda kicked me into gear, as I was clicking around, chilling out. Basically, the power nerd version of refreshing Facebook. When I took a second to go back a couple of pages, and took a closer look at a couple seemingly more boring pages. I can't confirm if the pop-up was related to what I found, just that I found something rough. It was a black background with white text, and a simple HTML table in the center of the screen. No title, no telling information, and a nonsense domain. The table had 5 unnamed columns with numbers in every row, and about 30 rows. The far right-hand column, though, was the same for every row. A plain blue hyperlink, labeled link. My first move was to execute trace.sh reflexively, just to be sure. Nothing to jump out at, just redirects from a custom VPN I'd made with a friend of mine. So I clicked one of the links. What I saw was a JPEG riddled with artifacts showing the face of young Asian women, maybe in her early teens. That's when I took another look at the other columns of the table in that row. 13, 149, 49, 21500, link. The pop-up sprang forward and a new message appeared.
Feel free to browse. New auras arrive every Sunday, 1200 GMT.
So, it's a shop bot. I guessed, not connecting the dots. Tonight's the first time I've drank vodka since. Maybe that's what brought this all back. I ran unpack.sh and open.sh to see what else there was to the page. And suddenly, the source exploded with thousands of lines of text. If you'd like a guess at what I saw in the code, head to google.com, go to View, Source. No leads there. But then, my terminal window, with Trace running suddenly, dumped half a dozen new IPs. Again, on reflex, I bailed out. I shut it all down, wiped my PC, and switched to a live USB with a cut-down version of Backtrack I'd compiled myself. Then I went back to the page. It was exactly the same, and I even clicked the link on the same row as before. On a whim, I ran unpack.sh and open.sh to see what else was going on with the JPEG, and found a link in the source to a WMV. Not useful to me, using Linux, but after I got VLC, it opened fine. What I saw was this: a room with no visible door. The walls appeared to be metallic. There was a drain in the floor, but that's not what I noticed first. In the center of the room was a stretcher on wheels, with an undressed Asian woman shackled to it with leather bindings. Above her was a surgical lamp. She didn't seem conscious though. A tall man entered the frame in the full surgical garb, complete with hairnet, gloves, slippers, and a face mask. He sends a look to the camera, and I notice that in his left hand, the hand obscured by his body, was a circular saw like you'd cut concrete with. One by one, he cut the woman at each shoulder, and then diagonally at the top of each leg, working around the shape of the pelvis. The woman shook slightly. I'm guessing from the vibration of the saw, but she didn't wake. Once her limbs were completely severed, he produced a portable drill from out of frame and fixed a hole bit to it, like you'd use to drill large holes in timber. With this, he drove 2 holes into her chest, one above each breast. I barely made it to my toilet to unload dinner. When I got back, he was carefully inserting some shining metallic tube into each hole. I was at my limit. I must have been pale and sweating bullets at the time. I remember a lot of sleepless nights after that. I failed my midterms and didn't look back. But, sadly, this isn't where it ended for me. The last thing I saw, the last moments of that WMV, was the man in the surgical gear approaching the camera and holding a photograph right up to the lens. Then I knew why he'd done what he did, and also what the numbers meant. The photograph was of another Asian woman, also with no arms or legs, and clearly in extreme pain, being suspended against a wall by similar shoulder holes to the ones he drilled through his latest victim. He gave an OK sign with one hand, his index finger and thumb making an O while his fingers were outstretched, and then the video ended. As for the numbers, I can't confirm this, and I don't want to, but there were consistencies between each row. Then it hit me. Age, height, weight, and price. In 2004, a video was found on the dark web, which caused quite a stir on various user forums at the time. The website itself took an incredibly long time to load, as many sites accessed through Tor notoriously did, and still do. The background of the site was simply white, and there were 4 video titles listed one beneath the other without any thumbnails. These videos were downloadable, and were simply titled Farm 1, Farm 2, Farm 3, and Farm 4.avi. The videos were said to contain malicious software that would make it impossible to close the program used to open the file. It was reported that the video would continue to loop without stopping if opened. There are various reports about each of the different videos, but amidst the different reports, there was a universal agreement that the videos were very disturbing. The first video, titled farm1.avi, had an old camera placed in the corner of what appeared to be some kind of factory farm with a dimly lit interior. The video was 3 minutes long and of very poor quality. It just showed pigs wandering around in the dark. In the background, there appeared to be several people standing against the furthest wall of the large enclosure, but due to the poor quality of the video, it was different to make out any defining features. There was no audio in the video. In farm2.avi, a South African flag is visibly hung from one of the walls. The quality was marginally better this time, with some limited audio that consisted of a loud humming sound. Pigs were reportedly wandering around in circles within their pens. The video lasted for about 4 minutes this time, and during the last 30 seconds of it, the pigs appeared to panic and swarm in a circle as if something had startled them. A large object could be faintly seen landing in the pen, but was nearly impossible to identify. Farm3.avi and Farm4.avi were the most disturbing of the videos. Farm 3 lasted for about 4 minutes, and Farm 4 lasted for around 10. The camera seemed to have been moved into a smaller tiled area that resembled a public restroom, with various brown stains on the walls and floors. In the room, there were 3 slaughtered pigs that were spread across the floor, with their heads dismembered. The camera was placed at foot level for this video. Someone in Wellington boots can be seen walking in front of the camera, encircling the 3 corpses. It appeared at first that these pigs were dead. However, the corpses appeared to have been sewn shut along each of their underbellies with visible stitching, although the audio was obscured by the humming sound from the previous video. Muffled noises could be heard along the visible twitching from within the bellies of the pigs. Towards the end of the video, there appeared to be something resembling the foot of a child stepping into the room. But again, this is difficult to see, and the video stops as the man kicks the underbelly of one of the twitching pigs. The final video, Farm4.avi, was the most disturbing in the series. There are several naked figures lined across the wall, with dismembered pig heads forced over their own. These were presumably from the bodies of the pigs in Farm3.avi. It was claimed that 2 men and 1 woman were chained to the far wall from the first room. They were described as visibly shaking and appeared to be frantically moving their heads from side to side, as if trying to remove the animals' heads from their own. Again, there are muffled noises allegedly coming from behind the pigs' heads, and the victims are described as having various cuts and bruises across their arms, thighs, and even some form of a brand on each of their chests. In the case of the woman, it appeared to have been directly placed at the center of her right breast. The scene cuts out for a brief moment, and the camera has been moved to foot height once more at the entrance to one of the pens. The captives are on their hands and knees looking towards the camera. They remain still until prompted to move by the man who wore the Wellington boots. He appears to be yelling at them and violently pointing towards the adjacent room from Farm 3, but there was no audio in this segment of the video. His face is impossible to see due to the poor quality of the video and the cap over his head. The camera cuts out for a brief moment, and the victims are now stood in a pig pen and appear to be dancing and waving their arms in the air whilst directly looking down at the camera. The camera cuts out again, and the victims are said to have been continuously crawling around in a circle on their hands and knees, similar to the pigs in Farm2.avi. There's another cut, and the 2 men are now standing in the pen, whilst the woman remains on her hands and knees looking towards the floor. The man from Farm3.avi then appears to be pointing at the two men and the woman with frenzied motions. The two men appear reluctant to comply with the man until he starts pointing at the adjoining room once more. The men then reluctantly begin to touch their privates, and one can only speculate what happened next. The video cuts for the final time, and the trio are crawling in a circle once more. Eventually, the woman stops and appears to break down crying. The two men also stop and appear to try and comfort her by patting her on the back and attempting to whisper, although all that can be seen are the pig heads moving closer towards hers. The man from Farm 3 then comes over and starts frantically pointing at the adjoining room once more. The victims seem to panic and start moving with urgency and desperation. The man again disappears into the adjoining room for a moment and brings out the headless corpse of one of the pigs. He takes out a butcher's knife and begins to repeatedly stab the underbelly of the pig. A muffled scream can be clearly heard over the humming audio. This came directly from the female victim, as she and the other two men desperately try to climb over the pen towards the man. The video then abruptly ends before repeating itself once more. Allegedly, the SAPs were informed of the videos, and many different farms across the region were checked for any possible evidence of the activity shown in the videos. There were no special characteristics which could point to the buildings, as the architecture was commonplace. Due to the annual number of missing people in the region and limited resources, the case was essentially closed and labeled as an elaborate hoax. The videos and Onion link are rumored to still be around to this day. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I appreciate it a lot. And also, big thanks to my patrons, and if you want to support me, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. And if you want to hear more scary stories in the future, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Thank you.